When Universal announced a live-action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon, many fans were confused about what that would entail. Even original writer-director Dean DeBlois, who returned to the helm to bring his Oscar-nominated animated tale to life, was confused at first. "I am not a huge fan of the animation to live-action trend," DeBlois admits, but Universal wanted to revisit the story, and he knew he was the only one to get it right. The key for DeBlois was that the production team had to pick a lane at the start. For him, returning to How to Train Your Dragon in live action was a deeply personal endeavor. He reflected on the original animated film with pride, but also recognized that it had been created under intense time constraints. While proud of the result, he saw the remake as an opportunity to realize the full creative vision he and his team had originally imagined. Rather than discarding what already worked, DeBlois and his collaborators viewed the animated version as a kind of extended proof of concept, almost like an early test screening. With more resources and time at their disposal this time around, they aimed to build on the strengths of the original, enhancing character development, deepening emotional connections, and crafting more intense, immersive action and flight sequences. The goal was to create something that honored the spirit and familiarity of the first film while adding greater nuance and resonance. For DeBlois, it was the most natural and rewarding path forward, one that stayed true to a story he remained genuinely proud of. As Dean DeBlois began work on the live-action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon, he turned to some trusted creative partners. One of his first calls was to composer John Powell, whose iconic scores helped define the emotional tone of the original animated films. Powell immediately saw the potential in revisiting the material, suggesting that the new version could serve as both a nostalgic return for longtime fans and a fresh experience they could now enjoy with their own families. He quickly agreed to come on board. Next, DeBlois sought out Roger Deakins, the acclaimed cinematographer who had served as a visual consultant on the animated trilogy. Although Deakins had stepped away from large-scale visual effects projects to focus on smaller, independent films, he still offered his guidance, specifically by recommending another seasoned cinematographer for the job, Bill Pope. Known for his work on visually distinctive films like The Matrix, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and Army of Darkness, Pope impressed DeBlois with his deep understanding of narrative and character-driven storytelling. DeBlois especially valued Pope's instincts beyond just the technical side of filmmaking. He praised Pope's ability to interpret scripts, evaluate performances during auditions, and provide honest, insightful feedback on scenes in the moment. For a director making his first foray into live action, that kind of collaborative insight proved invaluable. Casting the live-action version was a lengthy process, focused on finding young actors who could not only embody the characters as they are now, but also evolve with them over time. One of the defining traits of the original How to Train Your Dragon series was its willingness to let its characters age meaningfully across each installment. Those time jumps allowed the story to explore key moments of growth, making it a genuine coming-of-age journey. The live-action adaptation aimed to preserve that sense of progression by choosing performers with the potential to mature alongside their roles. After auditioning several hundred actors, they found the right stars in Mason Thames as Hiccup and Nico Parker, daughter of Emmy winner Thandie Newton, as Astrid. Toothless's updated design proved to be the most significant creative hurdle in the development of the new film, according to director Dean DeBlois. The team was determined to preserve the beloved character's essence and personality, knowing that any drastic changes would likely face intense scrutiny. The real challenge, DeBlois explained, was translating Toothless's stylized cartoon-like proportions into a more grounded and lifelike creature, one that could plausibly exist in a world as realistic as Jurassic Park. Striking the right balance between realistic details and the iconic shapes that defined the animated version was no easy task. Guidance came from legendary visual effects artist John Dykstra, a pioneer known for co-founding Industrial Light and Magic and revolutionizing film with his work on the original Star Wars. While consulting for Universal, Dykstra offered DeBlois a crucial piece of advice: approach the animated How to Train Your Dragon as if it were a stylized follow-up to a more grounded, live-action version. This perspective allowed DeBlois to view the animated Toothless as a heightened, caricatured interpretation of a real dragon. It became a guiding philosophy for designing all the dragons in the film, an approach that is evident throughout the latest adaptation. One of the most exhilarating moments from the original film is when Hiccup and Toothless are trying out the harness that Hiccup designed. In the original, DreamWorks animation chief Jeffrey Katzenberg made the team use 3D technology to enhance the sequence, which was praised by fans and critics alike. But for the live action, the sequence remained just as breathless and had an increased sense of danger. To fit the parameters of IMAX and make the film feel more cinematic, The camera team shifted the aspect ratio from 1.85 to 1 to 2.35 to 1, giving the visuals a broader, more immersive feel. DeBlois explained that he and Pope shot the film in open matte specifically to optimize it for IMAX presentations. The aspect ratio dynamically changes during select sequences, particularly those involving dragons in flight or training, to enhance the sense of scale and spectacle. Drawing inspiration from moments like the dramatic screen expansion in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, the film uses the IMAX format in a similarly organic way. DeBlois shared that one scene in particular uses the rhythm of a dragon's breathing to gradually expand the image, with each breath revealing more of the screen until it fully opens up. According to him, the effect is not only visually striking, but also emotionally resonant, an added layer that deepens the experience without overwhelming it. A majority of the live-action adaptation was filmed in Northern Ireland, already a very popular filming destination for productions, such as Game of Thrones. The country has the perfect rugged and dramatic vibe with the high cliffs, stormy oceans, and sprawling fields of green that could bring Hiccup and Toothless home of Berk to life easily. Let's dive deep into specific locations that the country has to offer. First up is Tollymore Forest Park in County Down. The park was famous for its dense woodlands, rocky riverbanks, and mystical ambience, making it the ideal setting for the Viking world. Fans may recognize it in the scene where Hiccup and Toothless meet for the first time. Another shooting location was Dunseverick Castle and the surrounding land, which became the setting of the island of Berk, where the Vikings in the film settled. The castle isn't really a castle anymore, more like the ruins of a tower, but with some production design and CGI, the team was able to make it look more real and full. With sloping cliffs and the ocean merely feet away, this was the perfect setting to bring to life the beautiful animation of the Isle of Berk. Additional filming for the scenes where Hiccup and Toothless fly together took place on the shores of Giant's Causeway, Northern Ireland's only UNESCO World Heritage Site. Thanks to the mind-blowing landscape, the rocky formation made up of the dark hexagonal basalt stones that jut out of the ocean looks like something out of the Viking era, which helped add to the realism of the film. The castle is located in County Antrim, where Merlot Bay is also situated. With its stunning caves, rock formations, gorgeous coasts, and sprawling green hills, the production team utilized this setting as the filming location for some of the CGI dragon flying scenes and the scene in which Hiccup and his father, Stoic the Vast, engaged in tense arguments. Additional photography was filmed in the world-famous Titanic Studios, a shipyard-turned studio space where the actual Titanic was built. The battlements of the Viking village were constructed just across the road from the studio on their backlot. The famous cranes, named Samson and Goliath, were not removed for filming, but instead were CGI'd out of the final frames of the film. Experiencing those sets that are then dressed and are lit and have torches on fire in the Great Hall, people get caught up in that energy and they believe in the story, said Gerard Butler. Beyond the Emerald Isle, additional filming took place on the Faroe Islands and Iceland. Among the most spectacular places in the Faroe Islands featured in the film is Tindhólmur Islet, a jagged islet off the coast of Vágar Island that rises from the sea like something from Norse mythology. The distinctive spiky silhouette and towering rock formations served as the inspiration for the Isle of Berk, and many of the exterior shots for the island were filmed here. B-roll footage was filmed around Iceland to complement the rest of the footage to shape out the island of Berk. Additional filming took place on sound stages in LA for the CGI-heavy sequences. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.